Doctor, you wrote a book titled A Doctor Goes to Prison. Can you
did.
talk a little bit about the story that eventually
Yes,
led
sir.
to that book?
I've got some good friends down in Mexico. The Contrerases were my friends. They're still my friends. And I went down there in the late 1970s, early 1980s, see what they were doing. And they were using nutrition, and it impressed me so much I came back up here and started using the same thing they were using. Had the same success they had. And if you have people that have 3 months to live and 5 years later they're still alive, they get you all sorts of attention. And it got me attention.
Sure.
I got a call from a U.S. attorney in 1993.
And you're talking about treating cancer,
Treating
right?
cancer.
Okay.
No, treating patients. I never treated cancer.
Okay.
I get on TV or talk to somebody, they say, you treat cancer? No, I treat patients. If your body doesn't fight cancer, you're not going to get rid of it. Fools treat disease, okay? That's crazy. I get the body, I treat the body and get the body to fight, and it does its own thing. But that's neither here nor there in this case. He called me and he said, I'm going to get your supplier and then I'm coming after you. Well, I was very successful at the time and seeing more patients than I probably should have been seeing, and I just blew it off. I thought it was crazy. I said, well, who are you? And he said, you'll find out, and hung up. One day before the statute of limitation ran out on that phone call, they came and arrested me. They told me that. Said if we couldn't have found you today, we would have gotten you.
Really?
Now, they came to my office, slapped handcuffs on me, threw in a paddy wagon, and took me off to lockup. They had raided my office in 1996. They came into my office with my patients there, and everybody came in with guns drawn and just acted like fools, okay? And I told the guy, I said, why don't you just tell me you wanted to talk to me and I'd come down and see you. I said, you got to be a jackass about the whole thing? You know, I was right up front with him. And before we were done, I said, well, let me ask you something. I said, if they got into your affairs like they got into mine, the guy that arrested me, I said, would you be squeaky clean? He said, what do you mean? I said, just what I'm saying. If they get into your affairs, you going to pass the test? He said, I hope that never happens. If the federal government wants you, they're going to find something to get you on. They had a couple of things they were pretty sure they could prove in my case. They had about a dozen things that were just frivolous, okay? Now, my judge got 3,000 letters from my patients. He was scared to death. Before they sentenced me, they went back to his chamber. My attorney said, I've never been back in the chamber. He was shaking. He went back to the judge's chamber. Whether that was true or not, I don't know. But he went back to the judge's chamber, and when he came back, I said, what was that all about? And he said, let me tell you. He said, I've never seen anything like this before in my life. He said, the judge had the prosecuting attorney and me back there in his chamber, in his office. And he said, do you know of any way we can keep from sending the doctor to prison without us going to prison?
Really? So what were you arrested for?
They arrested me because I was getting cancer patients. We were using unapproved therapy for cancer. Now, when they sentenced me, my prosecuting attorney got up and said, there's absolutely nothing wrong with Dr. Streeter's treatment of patients. Said the patients that came to him were terminal by medical standards, and they got exactly what they wanted. He gave them hope.
And there weren't patients complaining. You didn't have a whole list of patients complaining, saying, someone take care of this doctor.
No, and I pleaded guilty to the least punishable of the charges to keep my wife and family from being involved. Okay. And most of the guys that were in prison, they were in prison because of that. I did interviews on, I got a list as long as your arm. 95% of the people that were in the prison where I was, prison camp, shouldn't have been there. They were there on, the people that were guarding them were bigger criminals than they were.
So who came into your office, and describe what that was like the day they raided it?
It was the FDA. The FDA came in. They were the first ones to come in, but once they got there, they brought the DEA, the IRS, the insurance people, everybody they could get their hands on. They tore a tile out of my ceiling. I don't know what they're looking for, you know. They acted like dummies, really. My girls couldn't even go to the washroom without somebody being with them. It's foolishness. And when it was all said and done, the girl at the front desk asked them why they had to take all the charts. And somebody made a slip and said, well, we got an order for one chart. But they took 3,000 of my charts and threw them in the back of a U-Haul truck, and my patient never got them back. I had a couple that was in the office that day, and they told me afterwards, we saw this happen in Germany. Well, the only difference between what happened in your office, what happened in Germany, they took people out and shot them. But they used the same tactics, did the same thing, treated my patients, my employees exactly the same way that the Gestapo treated people in Germany. But now, let me just say this. I got a boy that's he's opening a practice July 1st in Valparaiso, Indiana, the Streeter Health and Wellness Center. They just thought they saw the Streeters.
Yeah.
You know, I got a grandson already prepared to go to what I'm going into. He said, Grandpa, I want to be a doctor just like you. Well, if my going to prison keeps people from messing with my son and grandson, worth it.
And how long were you in prison?
18 months.
From that, I assume you lost your license? Or had it suspended?
For a little bit.
Okay.
When I got back, they wanted to suspend my license. In 2005, I appeared before a judge in my county. I've lived in the same county for 37 years. And it was just a little before Christmas. And before I left his chamber, he said, or his courtroom, he said, have a Merry Christmas, Dr. Streeter. I broke his pencil from the state. He sent a 12-page letter down to the licensing board and said, give the doctor's license back and leave him alone. They appealed it to the appellate court. Chief appellate court judge sent a letter down to him and said, do what the circuit court judge said to do, leave the doctor alone and give him his license back. They don't like me very well down in Indianapolis.
So did that happen? When you got your license back, were you able to practice the way you had before?
I practiced just like I always did.
And never got any trouble again?
They had a prosecuting attorney in Elkhart charged me with practicing medicine without a license. When I first got out of prison, the local health food store hired me. And everybody had to sign a form that said they knew I didn't have a license. The first thing I said, well, I don't have a license. All I can do is make recommendations, but I can't treat you. Well, they sent a plant in, and the state did this. It was a trooper, a lady trooper, and she said I was practicing medicine without a license. Well, when I got before the licensing board, the DO on the licensing board said, look, he didn't do anything that we don't do, and we could do it without a license. Said the massage therapist could do what he was doing. Okay, they get by with it. So they sort of had egg on their face, and you ought to sat in the licensing boardroom. It was funny. Really, I shouldn't have gotten my license back. The first time we appeared, I thought we were appearing to see whether I get my license back or not. And the lady from the state attorney's office said, you know, you're here to see whether you'll ever practice medicine in Indiana again. Well, I said, is that a fact? And I asked for a postponement. And we went back for another hearing, and I had an attorney that I'd trusted before, and they put us off and put us off and put us off until just before quitting time at 10 o'clock at night, and voted to suspend my license. One of my patients that was in that room was the clerk for the chief appellate court, federal appellate court judge in Indiana. She had smoke coming out of her ears. She went back and told her boss what had happened to me, and he said, here's a fellow you want to get. So he recommended David McNamara, who's former prosecuting attorney in Indianapolis, and he was my attorney, and he ate him up. When we came back to the licensing board room with the letter, I'm sure he had something to do with the letter, but the head of the licensing board said, what does this mean? They never got a letter like that before. And their attorney said, well, I don't know what it means to you, but here's what it means to me. He said, you either give the doctor his license back, or you plan to spend an extended tour of duty in LaGrange County Jail. And during that time, I was being harassed by the courts in Elkhart for practicing medicine without a license, and I had a court-appointed attorney. And the last time we met, I walked in, I said, what in the world am I doing here? I said, I've got a license. I said, I had a court-ordered license for a year. And I said, no, I got a license that I just got off the internet. I just applied, they gave it to me on the internet. Oh, he said, we're going to have fun today. And he walked in, and the prosecuting attorney got up and he said, now we've got a serious matter here, Your Honor. We've got a man that's been practicing medicine without a license in our county. And my attorney stopped him right there. He said, Your Honor, does the prosecuting attorney ever do his homework? I said, what do you mean? You told him. He said, the doctor's had a license, a court-ordered license for a year. He just got a license that was applied off the internet and got it. The judge said, just a minute. He said, Dr. Streeter, I'm sorry we detained you and put you through all this. You have a wonderful day. And he started in on the prosecuting attorney. When I left, he was just chewing him. He said, my courtroom is full of people, and you got to bring a case like this in front of me? He said, don't you ever do anything like this again. And you do your homework before you come to my courtroom. So